Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. As-salatu was-salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. If you call yourself a Muslim, did you know that you were chosen by God as those who submit and surrender to Him? Says who? The Quran, of course. We read in chapter 22 as it addresses the believers and says to bow down, prostrate, and worship your Lord and do good so that you may succeed. Then in the next verse says, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ هُوَ اجْتَبَاكُمْ وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ إِبْرَاهِيمَ هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And strive for Allah with the striving due to Him. He has chosen you and has not placed upon you in religion any difficulty. It is the religion of your father, Abraham. Allah named you Muslims, which addresses those who believe and do righteous deeds, and that God chose them not as prophets, but as those who submit and surrender to Him. As such, He named you Muslims. It is true that God says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Indeed, we honored the children of Adam. Why He honored humans? Because He gave them the gift of free will and intellect. Hence, they can make choices and ascend to the highest ranks out of their own free will. One who chooses to be guided and seeks it, then Allah grants it, as we spoke in previous lectures, because He will deserve it. Here it is even a higher honor to be among those who submit and surrender to Him as Muslims. Therefore, as Muslims, we must really appreciate to be chosen, and there's no greater appreciation. Allah guides those who deserve it, those who believe and worship Him, bow down and prostrate to Him in all humbleness, do good deeds and strive in His cause, in which case they will succeed and are considered as Muslims, which is an honor of its own. Think, among all the people on earth with all sorts of superstitious, irrational, superficial, or deviated beliefs, or those with no belief, you have been given the honor of being a Muslim, one who submits and surrenders to the only creator and sustainer of the universe, without any intermediary, relies on Him 24/7, seeks His help, not the man-made deities, and is confident about future being in God's hand, and that your return is to Him. As a Muslim, you know where you came from, your purpose in this life, and your destination in details with full confidence. That is why Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِلَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. Believers, eat of the good we have provided you and give thanks to Allah if you really worship Him. This favor from Allah Azza wa Jal deserves lots of significance, attention, and appreciation. Now, beyond being thankful to be among the chosen, among the Muslims, there are other favors that God has bestowed upon us that we must also be thankful for, as we often tend to get used to and the bounties from God, or take them as granted. Hence, we do not get to appreciate them as we should. When do people realize these favors? When do they miss them? It is when they lose them. Something as small as scratchy throat or sore throat or a headache or a toothache immediately makes them realize and appreciate their health, which is often taken for granted. Unfortunately, any bounty, ni'mah, from God is recognized only once it is lost. That is why we see the Quran mentions a variety of these favors in verses that end with وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you may be thankful. The Quran says وَآتَاكُم مِّن كُلِّ مَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُ وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَظَلُومٌ كَفَّارٌ. And he gave you from all you had asked of him. And if you should count the favor of Allah, you could not enumerate them. Indeed, mankind is generally most unjust and ungrateful. Allah gave you what you asked, what was necessary. Also, meaning one has to seek and ask, make dua, along with putting his or her own effort in. In a formative takwini fashion, God has given you the physical attributes like your body, your strength, your mind, and those of your external world, all of which you must utilize and appreciate. One who feels depressed, he has not paid attention to these bounties from God. He's so focused on wishing what he wants now or in the future, not what he already has. He wants to get to what he does not have, often without any effort, and when he does not reach it, he gets upset or depressed. A believer, a submitter who is grateful and appreciates what he has will never be depressed because he is continuously aware of God's favor upon him or her. The main source of many depressions, anxiety, and hopelessness is this very lack of appreciation of what one has. One who has gratitude is usually happy and in peace with himself. قُلْ بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَبِرَحْمَتِهِ فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا هُوَ خَيْرٌ مِّمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. Say, in the bounty of Allah and in His mercy, in that let them rejoice, be happy. It is better than what you collect, accumulate. Your joy and happiness must be because of God's mercy and favor upon you. And especially in the case of a believer, is his or her iman, faith, and guidance, which are greatest gifts one can have. Not the wealth, power, or fame many people are so fixated on, which are all temporary and soon be gone. Therefore, this shukr, appreciation and gratitude, is very important. It is that which leads to prosperity and success in this life and hereafter. It also takes away sadness and hopelessness. And if you get to such state of mind, your problems will be resolved. Because the Quran says, وَإِن تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. And remember when your Lord proclaimed, if you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor. Interestingly, this verse was revealed in the context of Musa alayhi salam and his people, where he reminds them of all the bounty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon them. And you know how demanding they were, as the verse before says, and recall, O children of Israel, when Moses said to his people, remember the favor of Allah upon you when he saved you from the people of Pharaoh, who were afflicting you with the worst torment and were slaughtering your newborn sons and keeping your females alive. And that was a great trial or test from your Lord. Of course, these verses are not just for them. We too need to recall the favors Allah has bestowed on each and every one of us. starting from families where wife or husband is constantly complaining, sons or daughters complaining, the in-laws are complaining, I never got to have this or that, so and so have it, why can't I? Complaints right and left. If Bani Israel is taught to have gratitude in the midst of the major events in their lives, in contrast, we don't have much to complain about. This is the key. We must focus on what we do have and what we're blessed with and be thankful first, and then the have-nots. In due time, we will see the resolution to our issues. Incidentally, constant complaints and discontentment lead to some form of depression and miserable life. This is not just about religion and having faith. When nothing makes you happy because you're so focused and worried about the future, hence comes the anxiety. Or you are so overwhelmed with what you don't have or could have had in the present or in the past, hence comes the depression. Here Allah is telling Bani Israel, now that you have been rescued from your past condition, move on and be thankful. In verse 7, the Quran uses the word ta'adhana, proclaimed or declared, instead of just telling them. Proclaiming means announcing publicly, something that stays in their ears, ingrained in their mind, because He wants them to remember it, like we do adhan, call to prayer. Then Allah says, if you are just grateful a bit, I will give you more. This is the word and promise of Allah Azza wa Jal, declaring with certainty. The beginning of the passage, which starts with verse 5 in Surah Ibrahim, chapter 14, says, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا أَنْ أَخْرِجْ قَوْمَكَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. And we certainly sent Moses with our signs, saying, bring out your people from darknesses into the light and remind them of the days of Allah. Indeed, in that are signs for everyone who is firmly patient and constantly grateful. Where it ends with two words that come as hyperbolic nouns. Sabbarin shakur, firmly patient and constantly grateful. Why the two words together? Because they complement each other. Being grateful helps us be patient and vice versa. A great way to fight impatience is to be grateful and appreciative. If you can have both of these qualities, you will benefit from God's guidance and He will give you more. What you want is maybe your desire, which comes from you and your wish list. What you have is what Allah has already given you. Now, by all this, I'm not saying we should not strive for better. We absolutely should. But we do it with being firmly patient and constantly grateful. Sabbarin shakur. Why? Because sometimes what you want may not happen right away. Don't jump to conclusion by saying or thinking, I don't see things improving, or I don't see getting that raise or promotion. I don't see my family problem or my death problem going away, etc. Allah is giving the formula here. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor. Where do you think your money, your wealth, your health, and family come from? Where do you think the solution to your problem comes from? Similarly, in chapter 7, as Allah chooses Musa alayhi salam to be his messenger says, قال يا موسى إني استفيتك على الناس برسالاتي وبكلامي فخذ ما آتيتك وكن من الشاكرين. He said, Moses, I have chosen you from all mankind with my messages and my words spoken to you. Therefore, take what I have given you and be among the thankful. Where Allah is teaching His messenger, hence His people, to be among those with gratitude and appreciation. By the way, the passage in chapter 14 ends with verse 8, which says Allah does not need our appreciation and gratitude. وقال موسى إن تكفروا أنتم ومن في الأرض جميعا فإن الله لغني حميد. And Moses said, if you and all people on earth disbelieve, indeed Allah is free of need and is praiseworthy. In fact, our gratitude benefits us, as the famous verse 31:12 sums it up. وَمَنْ يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد. And whoever is grateful for the benefit of himself. And whoever denies his favors, then indeed Allah is free of need and praiseworthy. Both verses, you notice, end with فإن الله غني حميد. Indeed Allah is free of need and praiseworthy. Verse 31:12 thus contains an implicit directive to show gratitude to God. This is coupled with another directive making it clear that being grateful to God is of benefit only to the person expressing such gratitude, while it is of no benefit to God, who is ever praised, and if none of His creatures offer such praise, He who is grateful is only grateful for his own benefit. As for the one who is ungrateful, well, God is self-sufficient, praiseworthy. It is useful to reflect a little bit here on verse 7, which says, and remember when your Lord proclaimed, if you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favors. But if you deny, indeed my punishment is severe. Whereby God's blessings are increased for the grateful, and whereby His punishment awaits for those who adopt the opposite attitude. In the first instance, we feel reassured since it is a promise by God, and God always fulfills His promise. Expressing gratitude for a blessing is an evidence of implementing correct standards in day-to-day life. The proper reward for a blessing, according to a sound human nature, is to be grateful for it. We do it all the time with other people when they do us a favor. Moreover, a person who thanks God for His blessings is always watchful of God when it comes to making use of these blessings. He shows no arrogance, and he never puts God's blessings to foul or evil use. Both qualities add to the purity of the human soul and motivate human soul to further actions that help such blessings grow and increase. Thus, a grateful person also earns other people's goodwill, and they are then ready to help. This reflects on the community as a whole as well. On the other hand, denying God's grace can take many forms. For example, omitting to thank God for it, or refusing to recognize that it is God who has bestowed it, and attributing it to one's own knowledge, expertise, hard work, or intelligence, as if these are not part of the grace God bestowed on His servants. It may also take the form of misusing or abusing God's blessings, as when these are used to behave arrogantly when dealing with other people or to satisfy evil or corrupt desires. The verse says the severe punishment. And the severe punishment here, this threat includes being deprived of God's blessings, either by taking them away literally or by removing their effects on one's feelings. Many a blessing may become a curse, which brings unhappiness to the extent that the person may envy those who do not have it. Or the punishment may be deferred to its right time, either in this life or in the life to come. As mentioned, giving thanks to God for His grace does not benefit God Himself, just as denying it and being ungrateful does not cause Him harm. God is in no need of anyone or anything. He is praised as He is God. He does not need people's praise or gratitude. Indeed, it is human life that is elevated through thanking God for His grace. People's souls are purified by turning to God and by giving thanks where thanks belongs. In conclusion, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions gratitude in different forms throughout the Quran as a very important element shaping our attitudes. Why? Because gratitude and appreciation bring us the following. Number 1, contentment. Number 2, patience. Number 3, enjoyment of what we do have. Number 4, focus on what we do have, not on what we do not have, to the point where we are consumed with it. Number 5, control over our appetite. Number 6, help us not to be stuck in the past with could-haves. Number 7, help us not be fixated or worry so much about the future, which might cause anxiety. Number 8, utilizing what God gave us properly. Number 9, recognition of God's rights on us, especially His favors upon us. Hence, giving credit where it's due. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.